Let's start the today's training, and today's chapter is collection loops. Okay, one of my favorite subjects, because by knowing the collection loops I can do so many amazing things in Excel VBA, right? Now, what are the collection loops? Now, so far we have covered the for next loop, do until loop, and if conditions, and then we have covered the combination of the if and the loop, how it goes. We have also covered the loops in the loops, the sub loops. Now it is time to know the collection loops. Now, collection loops are quite different. They're not like the other loops. I mean, collection loops are basically the predefined loops, predefined structure they have. Predefined loops in the sense that in the Excel VBA, because we work with so many objects, Now, what is the programming? The programming is all about the dealing with the different objects. For example, if you specifically talk about the Excel VBA, Excel itself is the biggest object, and in the Excel we have then workbooks. They are also considered as objects, and then you have the worksheet. So then you have the cells, then you have the charts, then you have the pivots, then you have the folders. There are so many things, right? So in programming language, we call them actually objects, right? So what happened, many times we have to deal with the same kind of objects again and again. For example, if you remember in the introduction session, we made a project which was going in the sheet one by one, and which was capturing the data, copying the data from there, and it was compiling the data in a new file, right? And I said that this is a good macro, but if we delete something, if we delete any sheet name, or if we add some more sheets, this code is not going to work. You will have to modify the code, right? So what we are going to learn today, that is going to give us this much of power that we can sort out all these issues. You can go and run the loops in every sheet without addressing the individual sheets. Now, in Excel VBA, these people, developers, they say that if you have to deal with the different sheets, then let us not go to every sheet one by one, and let us not actually address the sheet names one by one. For example, you have a task that you have to go to every sheet and you have to protect your sheets, all the sheets. Or maybe you have to unprotect the sheets, or maybe you have to insert the charts in every sheet, or maybe you have to rename the sheets, all the sheets, 20 sheets, 25 sheets, 50 sheets, 60 sheets. There is no limit to it, right? Or maybe you want to copy the data from every sheet and you want to put it in some another file, as we did before. What is the ideal approach? Is the ideal approach is that you go and say sheet 1 dot select, sheet 2 dot select, sheet 3 dot select. So you keep on adding the name of the sheets. If you have 50 sheets, you know how the big program is going to be and how much time you're going to take. So they say that no, let's do one thing. Let us create a collection loop, and let us make a loop using the for each word. So they say that you can say that for each worksheet in worksheets, next worksheet. So they have given us this loop. You can see, if you even read it, as I said, that VBA is a very friendly language in terms of understanding it. This simply says that for each worksheet in worksheet. So first we have a singular object, and then you have actually plural of it. Okay, it is like for each boy in boys, for each girl in girls. You want to address. You don't want to address the individual name. You don't want to call A person first, B person first, C person first. You simply say that for each boy in boys. Okay, this is what we are supposed to do, right? Same way, guys, they have given us this loop for each worksheet in worksheets. So what happens when this loop runs, automatically it keep on moving to the every sheet till the time it does not go to the last sheet. This is the power of this sheet, the loop. Okay, and we call this collection loop. We can quickly go and make this code, and I can explain you then. So let's go and have the project explorer. Let's go and insert the module here. So how we going to write it? sub. So let's say I simply say that get sheet names. I'm interested in getting my sheet names. Okay, how you can get the sheet names? As I said, you write here for each worksheet and worksheets. This is a standard way of writing it. Next worksheet. You know the next word, what it does. When you write for next loop, next always takes you to the next I. So when you're going to write this sort of collection loop, next worksheet will take you to the next worksheet automatically. But now here we have one problem. You know what? Leave this worksheets part. This will remain there. This worksheet basically it is a class. Class means it is defined in VBA, right? And that is the reason when you write here sheets, you know, when you press dot, have you ever wondered that why these different icons are coming? This is a different icon, this is a different icon. So how basically using the dot operator you get to see all these values? You know, you press range word also, then you have the different the drop down is coming. Everything has a different drop down. If you remember when we created this the day one project workbooks dot, you know, open was coming. So what is it basically? How you go and write the dot word and the drop down comes? Actually what happened, since they have made this programming language, you know, on the object concept, so they say that in Excel whatever object we have, whether it is a chart, whether it is a pivot, or maybe the folders, you know, inside the folders also you have the files, or the Outlook or the PowerPoint. When you connect the Outlook or the PowerPoint with the Excel or the worksheet or the cells, you know, everything is going to be considered as object. But the thing is, the kind of functionalities, the kind of the things which I can do with my workbook, maybe I cannot do that with the worksheets or the cells or the charts, because they are all different objects, you know. Like a very simple example, when you make the chart and when you make the pivot, you know the difference, the basic difference between the chart and the pivot. Chart is an analytical tool, pivot is also the analytical tool, but pivot actually shows you the data. Chart shows you the graph, right? Both are analytical tools, both helps us in, you know, understanding the business requirements. But you know, in the charts you have the legends. In the charts you have the different axis, y axis, x axis. In the pivot you don't have. Similarly, in the Outlook you have the folders, you have the emails. In the PowerPoint you don't have. Similarly in the cells, you know, what is the cells? In the cell you can write the data, you can cut it, you can paste it, you know. But in the sheets you cannot use the cut. I mean, you can move the sheets, but you cannot cut it. You have you go and, you know, delete it instead of cut it. What I'm trying to say, I'm trying to say that all these objects are different from each other, and they have the different properties and the methods. Like we all guys, you know, we are all different, right? We have a different height, we have a different color, you know, we have a different eyes color, we have a different behavior, right? So we have a different thought process, you know, obviously. So they say that if you have to work with any of these objects, you should be able to perform some activities, and those activities we are going to categorize into two ways. We are going to describe those activities into two categories. One is called the method and the second is called the property. Okay, so what they say is that if you have an object, for example a workbook, let me talk about the workbook first. It is divided into two categories, guys, the method and the property. What is a method? Method means when some action happens, and property is more of a like adjective which actually tells you about the object, For example, what is the name of the workbook? This is called the property. Opening the workbook is a method. Closing the workbook is a method. Saving a workbook is a method, guys. Deleting a workbook is also a method, because there is some action, you know, which is going to happen if you run those commands. So when you press workbooks.open, right? When you press dot, the open comes. So when you run this line, you know what happens? The workbook gets opened. When you close the workbook, this is how we write in the workbooks dot close. Workbook gets closed. When I want to get the name of the workbook, how I write? Workbook dot name. So what is dot name? The dot name is the property, because it is actually telling us about that object. So when I go here and let me make another this module, the macro object hierarchy. So what happens, guys, like, we write workbooks, you get the dot open, you get the save as well, right? You get the close as well, for example. There are a lot of things. So if I write workbook dot, okay, or maybe something else, like active workbook, if I want to save the active workbook, you see that you get the save, you get the save as, right? Now when you press the dot and you see these different kind of symbols, the icons, what exactly it refers to. So let me just start with the workbook dot. Now when I write dot add, you see this tilted rectangular box, the biscuit, this means that this is a method. This icon which shows the hand sign having something holding, kind of envelope, let's say, this is called the property. So if I have to count how many workbooks are open, obviously this is not the action. This is a property, because you are going to actually, when you execute this line, you're going to actually check how many workbooks are open. So that's kind of, it is telling you about the workbook object. It is giving you the information. So we call this a property count, right? And when you write workbooks, as I said, that dot open or dot open text, there are so many things, you see all these options, right? Workbook dot add, by the way, dot add actually is to add the workbook, a new workbook if you run this. Now when you write dot add, you see a different symbol, as I said, this is a method. This is a sign for the method. This means that if I run this line, there will be some action, you will see, right? So every object is divided into two categories, guys, by Microsoft developers: property and method. Method means something will happen when you use the dot operator. So we can say that object and dot and then method, or object dot property. One thing you can use, that depends. For example, when you use the range, right? Now range is what it is. So let's say when we say the cells, okay, cells is what? Cells, again, as I said, it is an object, So when you say select, it selects it. It selects, that means there will be some movement, there will be some action, That's why we call it method. At the same time, when you write dot value, you write the dot value also, right? Dot value is a property, because it is going to tell you that what value actually we have got in there. So these are the methods, these are the properties which we can use using the dot operator. Now the thing is, you can also go and check the VBA. You can see that it's a kind of Bible, where you find all these objects defined. Now these all objects, they are defined somewhere. That is why when you use dot, when you press dot, all those methods and the properties are available, right? Now if I say, let's say I say that do you have any sort of command which says dot cut in the worksheet? You can check that. How are you going to check that? Maybe you can press worksheets dot cut. Cut is not coming, right? Why the cut is not coming? Because Microsoft hasn't given us this option. As simple as that. You are able to use all these methods and the properties because they are defined somewhere in the background, right? Maybe tomorrow you launch your own some sort of like the Excel tool. Maybe you can start giving the workbook dot cut command. Who knows? I mean, that is why you see that there is like the products like Tableau is there, the SAS is there, and big data analysis, R language. The market is flooded with so many tools. So what they are doing, The concept remains the same. They are just, playing with all these things. If I today go and I say that as a Microsoft developer, I say that let us add some kind of a feature in the Excel where we can run the car, we can make the car, and we can make this the car icon running on the Excel screen, for example. Then obviously you will go ahead and create some sort of object called car, and then you will say that what all things I have to give in that class. Class, what is class basically? When I say class, what do you mean by it? A class actually, guys, is a blueprint. A class is a blueprint of an object. The blueprint, what does that mean? Blueprint means where it is defined. When you go to any, let's say, manufacturing company where these engineers, they are developing the new the cars, the vehicles, somewhere they define, somewhere they keep that information, isn't it? So that the coming generation can take the benefit of it. Like when we also study, we directly don't jump into the graduation. We first cover the 10-12 years and we go step by step. So there is a ready-made module which is there in the form of books, and we go and read that. So this is what it is all about. The class actually, the class is nothing. It is where your objects are defined. So when I say workbook class, it means that the properties and the methods related to that workbook which you can use using dot, they are defined somewhere. So we have in the VBA option, let me quickly take you there. This is called the object browser. I use it a lot. Many times I use it and I find it very, very useful. Unfortunately, people, they don't use it. Rather than using this, they go to the Google and they try to copy and paste the codes from there. Object browser is a kind of a dictionary for VBA. Like you have a dictionary in Excel. When you click on this FX bar, what do you see? You see all the functions. You can go and check all the functions. If I say that, can you check, is there any function called variant? You can go here and you can write, you can press that we have any variant function or not. If you don't see that variant function here, your answer will be no, there is no variant function. Or maybe you can write here variant as well, So what is provided by the Microsoft is what you actually can use. You can't use everything, what I'm trying to say. So when you go to the object browser, there are any VLOOKUP function in VBA. How will you check? Because in Excel you can check. You go to the FX. Here also you can check. You write here, don't have to go to the Google. You write here VLOOKUP and you press enter. Now understand what it is. They say that it is a library called Excel. Obviously it is a part of Excel library, so you don't have to really worry about it. After all, this is all the Excel we are working, right? Now here comes the member and here comes the class, guys. Class is worksheet function, member is a VLOOKUP, and this is what I'm trying to educate you. Gradually you will start understanding these concepts. Why it is coming as a member? Because VLOOKUP is a part of a family, which is worksheet function, which is a class. So as I said, what is a class? A class actually is a place where your objects are defined. Every object is defined in a different class. VLOOKUP is a function. So for the functions, what they have done, these Microsoft team, they have given us the class called worksheet function. They said that every function you will be able to see under this worksheet function class. So that means if you go in VBA, and you type in here worksheet function class, you press dot, you start getting all the members. You start seeing all the members of this worksheet function, guys. And here you'll get the VLOOKUP as well. This is something we will do in the VBA functions chapter. How to use the ready-made functions, the inbuilt VBA functions. You're getting the point? So worksheet function is a class where you can go and check out the different functions. Similarly, there is another class which is called strings. In the strings, they have written the strings functions. So we have two classes, worksheet function and string. So if you ever have to check, you go to the worksheet function class here. These are all the classes. Can you even imagine how many classes we have in VBA? These are all the classes. I do not even know what is the purpose of these classes, but there are so many classes here, right? Every class, guys, has its own property and methods, right? So when we go in this worksheet function, let me write here ww. Let's go and check that. This is the worksheet function. You see, these are all the members. You can see all the members here of this worksheet function class. This is a function library, right? Same way, you want to check that what all things I can do with the worksheet. Just go and type in here worksheet. You type in the worksheet. Now worksheet is a class also, worksheet is a member also. When you say member, that means it is coming from somewhere. It is coming from some, some another class. For example, select. Select is a member of range because you can use range.select, right? When you say class, class means that itself it's an object and there will be some members there of that class. So when I select the worksheet as a class, because I want to see what all things I can do with the worksheet command, I go and select this worksheet. A worksheet can be activated. A worksheet can have auto filter, before delete, before double click. Worksheet can be calculated. Worksheet can, we can have a change also. So there are so many things actually, worksheet can be copied. You know how to copy the sheets? We can do that in the front part. So same way we can use the worksheet.copy method as also in the VBA, right? It's quite obvious. The things which you can do in the front part of the Excel, definitely that can be done in VBA. In fact, more than that, right? So always when you get confused whether this can be done, just think that if it is possible in the front part, it is definitely possible in the back end. There must be some command. You can also delete the sheet, So what is it? This is a method. These are all the different properties, guys. So you can also go and check that these things, right? So these are all the classes. You go and type in the chart. For example, I go and type in the chart. Now we have to find where is chart. This is my chart, the class. Now look at this. When I go in the chart, these are all the things. When we will learn the charts in the coming chapters, this is all what we will use. A chart can be activated. A chart can have a layout, data labels. You know the data labels. If you know Excel, you know what is the data label. When we go and display the numbers rather than showing it on the y-axis. A chart can have a color. A chart can have so many things, So a chart can have a title, which is a property. We can have a chart type as well, line chart, column chart, So basically what I'm trying to say, every object is defined and every object has its own property. Now pivot cannot obviously use this chart type, Pivot will have a different structure. Pivot, so you want to see the what all the properties and the methods we have in the pivot, just go and press enter and see if it is there. So here, look at this. We have not a pivot but pivot table. So what all things you can do with the pivot table? That means when you say pivot table dot, you will get all these methods and the properties coming in front of you. So pivot can add the fields. Pivot can use the cache, they're calculated fields. This is something which we use in front part also. So every object is defined in the background and every object has its own property and the methods which we actually use using the dot operator. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Right now, why I have given you this sort of information, because guys, when we use the collection loops, there is a rule. The rule is this worksheet, it is a class. Just give me a second. I'm getting a call. Yes, I tell me. Hello. Okay, bye. Okay, no problem. Thank you. So we have a rule that this particular class means a worksheet object is defined under this class. Okay, we directly can't use it. You directly can't use it. You have to declare the variable and you have to tell that variable equals to this worksheet. So how we're going to write it? Here they say that directly you cannot use any class. I mean, I directly can't use the class in the collection loops. You have to declare an object of your choice. For example, let's declare Jagdish as worksheet. Now, do you understand? I'm not writing here as long as by today. And if you remember, when we started the variable chapter, there was a data type there called object, if you remember. And I said that this object we will use in the coming sessions. Object means when you are actually dealing with these sort of objects, worksheet, workbook, chart, pivot, cell, range. You can't define worksheet as a long or string. You cannot, because that is the object. So when you do that, then you use the class. So when I say Jagdish as worksheet, Jagdish now is going to be treated as a worksheet. You want to activate. You want to, you can see in front of you all the properties and the methods which are given to the worksheet class, which are given to the worksheet object, they are now transferred to the Jagdish. Now Jagdish is not just any normal string. It is a proper worksheet. It refers to the worksheet. So you can even delete that. You can even delete the copy. You can copy it. Whatever things you can do with the worksheet class, that now you can do it using the Jagdish, right? So anyways, I'll give it something else name. Maybe I'll declare that as WS. Okay. Now what you need to do is, once you declare your WS as worksheet, for each WS in worksheet, this is how we use it. Now what we need the sheet names, right? Now how you get the sheet names, guys? Dot name, using the dot name. This is a property of a worksheet. So you will go and write here message box ws dot name, because in the message box we want to get the name of the sheet. Now when you run this tool, see how this is going to run. Now we have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4. Now when I run this, look at this. Variable not defined. First of all, this is not a variable, this is a class. As I said, class you can't directly use. I forgot to change it to WS also, because this is now WS. So when I go and start writing this command, you see my first sheet name comes, and then second sheet name comes, and then my third sheet name comes, and then my the last sheet name comes, and the macro finishes. Nowhere we are writing the name of the sheet. If you have to go to the sheet, not just you want to get the message box, you know how we select the sheets? We use sheets and then the sheet name and dot select. This is how we do it, guys. So same way, now we are not going to give any specific name. You just go and write ws dot select. What will happen now? The first sheet will be selected. It is already selected. We will not see any change. Now the second sheet is selected. Now the third sheet is selected, and now the fourth sheet is selected. And finally, you see, so the loop is so powerful, it checks that, it finds that you're on the last sheet, and the loop will automatically exit from this. You don't have to worry about it. That means if tomorrow I add one more sheet, maybe 2 more sheets, who cares? Because this loop will start from the first sheet. It keep on moving to the next sheet, because this is called for each worksheet in worksheets. So it will loop through all the sheets one by one, provided they are visible. If you are going to hide them, you will get the error, because hidden sheet cannot be selected. But then maybe you can apply the loop which actually can go and unhide the sheets first, isn't it? So that's how you can do different things here. Now why I'm selecting the sheets? Obviously I might be interested in doing something, something like what? Let us say since you have now learned this the loop very simple loop. I don't think so there's anything any sort of difficulty here. It's just for each worksheet couple of standard lines you have to write it, right? And inside that what you write, that depends. Now suppose you want to protect the sheets, so I go and write here sub protect all sheets. How will you do it? Now somebody who does not know the collection loop, what he will do, he will first go in the sheet 1, right? Select the sheet, and then that sheet is going to be protected. Now let us say I do not know the code how to protect the sheet. No problem, let's quickly go to the developer tab. Let's use the record macro. I click on the OK. Let's record the macro, and now we will go in the review tab and I protect the sheet. I protect the sheet. I give the password called 1. I click OK. Again I click OK, and there we go. Let me unprotect the code as well again in the same recording, and there we go. So finally we are done, and now I will go and save it. I just want to find out that what is the code of protecting the sheet. So let's go to the module. This is the module which is inserted by Excel. So ActiveSheet.protect and then ActiveSheet.unprotect, right? Now it has added a lot of other things as well, like drawing object, true, content, true. We don't need all this, right? I simply use the ActiveSheet.protect and unprotect. I come back to the module 1, and here, you know, I write here this, that ActiveSheet protect it with, let's say, the password called 1. This is how I think we can write it. Let me go and check that. So first the sheet is selected, and now you can see that it must have protected it. If I try to write something here, you know, it is a protected one. So I can go and unprotect the sheet. But you know, if you have 20 sheets, you cannot go and, I mean you can, but that's not a good way to make the code, because you have to write this line then 20 times. Copy paste, and then keep on changing the sheet name. We are not going to do that. So what we will do, we will declare here a variable called ws. I generally use ws. You can use whatever you want, right? As worksheet. Now ws is going to be my worksheet, so I say that for each my worksheet, in my worksheets, this remains as it is, plural. Next worksheet. Now you have to protect the worksheets, you know. So to protect the worksheet, what I will do, I will simply write ws dot protect must be there, obviously, because it is a part of worksheet class, you know. So you have the worksheet coming, protection word coming, and then you go and protect it, saying that protect 1. This is how we can do it. We don't need this. I go and delete that. Now let's go ahead and run the code, and I'll run this quickly, and I'll put the message box as well. Done. Or I say that protected. Can we run this quickly? Okay, there we go. Finally we are done. Let us go and test it. So this is my sheet 2. You can see it is protected. Easy. You can see here this is also protected. If I delete this sheet, for example, guys, is this going to impact my coding? Of course not. Are you writing somewhere that you are selecting sheet 5? You're not, right? You're not writing it. But if you go without this approach, and if you start naming the sheets individually, you will be in a problem, obviously. In fact, I go and rename this. Will this create any problem? No. Why? Because we are saying for each worksheet, so everything will be taken care of, right? Now similarly, we can run the another loop to unprotect it. So maybe you can go and copy this code and paste it here, and just go and write here unprotect, and here just go and write unprotect with the same password, and here we can write unprotected. So maybe in the sheet 1 I can go and create the 2 buttons, right? Now this is protected, obviously, so nothing will happen here. So first let's go and unprotect all the sheet. I go and run this. You can see that it is working, and finally we have all the sheets unprotected, no error coming. Now I go and click on this shape, and I run this. So I create here, right click, assign macro. This is for my protection. I go and create one more. This is for to unprotect the sheets. You can go and write it here. Unprotect. And then you have here this, we can say edit text, protect. This is how it is, guys. So let's go and click on the protect. We are done with this. Great. So things are protected. Let me unprotect them. So finally you are, unprotected now. Right? Now I don't understand when I run this why it is stopping at sheet 3. Right? So make sure that we should be back on the first sheet. So maybe we can write sheet 1 dot select. This is how also you can write. This is another method I'm telling you today. You can write sheet 1 dot select also, instead of writing this sheets and then the sheet name. Right? So after unprotecting, what I'm saying, we should be back on the sheet 1. Right? So the next time when I unprotect this, you see unprotected, and we are back on the sheet. When I want to protect the sheets, I click on the protect and the sheets will be protected. That is how it is. This is how the entire program will run. So let's for the time being unprotect everything now. So now the question is, what if you want to protect only first 3 sheets, or maybe 2, 3 and 4 number sheet? You don't have to protect this sheet, right? Now guys, understand one thing. If you have to protect specific sheets, why would you go and use the collection loop? Collection loop, what is the purpose of a collection loop when you want to work with every sheet? If you want to protect specific sheets, then you just go and write that, sheet 2 dot select, and then sheet 2 dot protect, and sheet 3 dot protect, and then dummy dot protect, right? There is no fun of creating the collection loop in that case. But I do understand that let us say that you have been asked to make a collection loop, and then you have been asked that using the collection loop, show us only the specific sheets should be protected. Let's say they say that first 3 sheets should be protected, but the last one should not be protected. In this case, for example, dummy should not be protected. The first 3 should be protected. This is what they are saying. So dummy, they are not saying that dummy, they are saying the last sheet, and the last sheet in our case is dummy actually. So how will you do it? First of all, you will say that how many sheets do we have? Please count it, So we will go and write here protect specific sheets. So first of all, you have to obviously count how many sheets you have. Now to count the sheets, you have a property called dot count, right? So what we will do, we will use a variable. We will say total count as long, and then you say that total count equals to sheets dot count. This is how you write. So when you run this line, you will be able to find out the total number of sheets. That means the total count, which is 4, that means the 4th number should be left untouched while running the loop. As simple as that, right? Because the last one we don't want. So now what you will do, you will run the loop, because you have to go to every sheet. Maybe you have 50 sheets and the 50th sheet you don't want to protect it. So we will run the loop. We will say dim ws as worksheet, because we have to select the sheet now to protect it. So I go and say that for each ws in worksheets, next WS. Okay, so what we will do this time, I will go and select the sheet first, dot select, and then I will protect it. How I'm going to protect it? The same code with a password called 1, but with one condition, guys. Now here comes your if part. Remember I said that if are almost every time, I mean if there is any practical project you are doing, you will find that if is there with the loops. That makes the combination very strong. Now when you run this loop, you do not know the name of the sheet. Right now I know, but maybe when I send this code to you, I want to make it universal. I don't want you to edit that dummy name with something else, because you may have a different sheet, you know. So we can do one thing. When you are selecting the sheets, let us create here a variable which is check as long. Okay, when you start the loop, the first time when you start the loop and when you protect the sheet, you make sure that you put here a condition. You start with the check as 1. Check should start with 1, and when you run this loop, before you select and protect that sheet, you know what do you want to do? Or maybe you select the sheet, but before you protect it, you put here a condition that if the check is equals to total count, or I would say that if the check if the check is less than total count, you know, if it is less, that means we haven't reached to the last sheet. Then what it is supposed to do? Then it is supposed to protect that sheet. Otherwise don't do anything. That's how we can write it. You can check now. Let me run this. Okay, so let's go and run the code. Variable not defined, sorry, typo mistake. This is worksheet. Okay, let's run the code now, guys. You got the check as 1 to begin with. For each worksheet in worksheets, I'll select the first sheet which is already there. Now you know what is the check. What is the value of the check? 1. What is the total count? 4. It is less than 4, right? If it is less than 4, that means we have to protect it. Let us go and protect it. There we go. Great. Time for the next worksheet now. Let's go and select that. You see that I'm on the sheet 2. Now when you are on the sheet 2, you see your check is still 1. Ideally now it should be 1. It should be 2. Because check also has to increment it by 1 every time you go in the next sheet, you know. That is how you will be able to know that when you are on the last sheet, isn't it? So what I did is I forgot to increment the check. So before the next worksheet, let us make sure the check should definitely be incremented by 1. Let me run the code again. Before we run the code, let me unprotect the sheet. Now let me go and run this. The first sheet is going to be selected. You know check is 1 and total count is 4. So it is less than 4, which is true. Let us protect the sheet. But now after the if function finishes, before we go for the next sheet, let us increment the check by 1. So now the next worksheet will be selected, but this time what is the comparison? The comparison between 2 and 4. Again, it is less than 4. We know that. That means we are still in the middle of the sheets somewhere. We are not in the last sheet. Protect the sheet again. Protect the sheet. Again, increment the check. Again, now you have a check as 3. This is less than 4. We know that. Protect the sheet. Now finally, when you have a check as 4 and this is also 4, you know they are equal. So the condition will fail. If the condition will fail, it will go in the else mode. It will not protect the sheet. And if Finally check is going to be 5, that's okay, but your loop is finished. So because this is the last worksheet. In this way you can build up this program. Now this is the last sheet. Now what if I say that I want to actually, so first of all let us go and check that. Let me create this sheet as a last sheet now, right? So let's quickly go and run the code again. Let's go and check that if we are able to protect this dummy sheet now, because right now dummy sheet is not protected, you can see here. Okay, so let's go and run this. The first thing is total count is now coming as 5 guys, which is dynamic because sheets.count is a command which you can use to count the sheets. So I go and start this. The first sheet is going to be selected. You know, check is less than total count obviously because check starts with 1, this one. So we're gonna protect the sheet. It is protecting the sheet. Sheet is already protected, that's fine. But we keep on moving, Let me run this quickly. Now finally you are on the dummy. Is it going to be protected? Yes, because 4 is still less than 5. You have the dummy protected now. And finally when you have the last sheet, this will not work. You can see that we are in the else mode. Done guys? Perfect. You can see that this sheet is not protected. Let's talk about the dummy sheet. It is protected. Let's talk about this sheet. They are all protected. No, let me unprotect them quickly. So this is how you can run. Now the question comes, what if I want maybe not the last sheet but maybe some random sheet? For example, you want that sheet number 2 and sheet number, let's say this 4 should be protected, right now I'm going to unprotect every sheet. This is also you can do. So how are we gonna do it? Well, you just go and first of all let me see all the sheets are unprotected. So you can see when all the sheets are unprotected. Now if I have to do this, let me give it a color, we can remember it. So these are the 2 files I want to give it, I want to protect it, or maybe I do not want to protect it. What is the index of these sheets? 2 and 4. So you can write here in this particular code. I'll just go and copy the code. I paste it here. Protect specific. I think this is fine for the specific number of sheets. I use the underscore, and here in the previous code we should write actually protect the last sheet. Okay, so now what you are supposed to do? Well, you're already counting. You are already counting this. Check. The only thing you need to do is if the check is not equals to what? 2. Okay, or check is not equals to 4, then please protect the sheet. If check is 2 or 4, do not protect. Do not do anything in the else mode. I can even write it, do not do anything. I mean, just for your information, don't do anything. You can write in the else so that it should be more understandable. So I think we should be fine with this. Can we go and check that? Let's go and run this. So what is the value in the check, guys? It is 1, which is not equals to 2 and 4 obviously. So let's go and protect it. Great. Let us go and increment the check. Now what is the check now in the next sheet? The check is 2 now, but 2 is equals to 2. So what should happen now? Now what we have done, basically understand this. Check is 2, the condition is false. It should not go in the then mode. But what happened, you have used the or. You're saying that either check is not equals to 2 or not equals to 4. So not equals to 4 is found true. So if it is found true, definitely it will go and protect the sheet. So ideally I think we should have not used the or but the and, because both the criteria are supposed to be true, right? So let me rerun this. Let me pull it back. What is the check? 2. This 2 is not equals to this 2. Is it true? No, because 2 and 2 are equal, right? But at the same time, you find here this 2 is not equals to 4. Is this true? Yes, this is also true. So what will happen? You see that we are going actually in the else mode. So we can use the AND mode. Both the condition should satisfy. So this is also going to fail. This is also going to fail. If both of the conditions are going to fail, you will go in the else mode. You can see that now sheet 2 is not protected. Now what is the new value in the check? It is 3. 3 is not equals to 2, which is true. 3 is not equals to 4, which is again true. Both the conditions are true. So we should protect it. Yes. So we protected it. Now what is the next thing? The check is what now? Check is 4, right? 4 is not equals to 2. Is this true? Yes. 4 and 2 are not equal. We know that. 4 is not equals to 4. Is this true? This is false now. So you know in the AND what happens? If any of the criteria is going to be failed, you will go in the else mode. So here this criteria is true, but this criteria is not true because 4 and 4 are equal. We know that. So this will get false. So if this will get false, the overall output of the AND will be false, and then it will go in the else part. So that's how you can do it. So finally we have the last sheet. In this it will definitely go and protect it because 7 neither equals to 2 nor equals to 4. So have the code done, and now you can see I can't write anything here, but I must be able to write something here. Yes, you can write anything here. You know that this is how it is. We do not want to protect the last sheet, but random sheet. Randomly we want to protect few sheets. We know the index of those sheets. Like in this case, I'm saying out of these 5 sheets, I want to protect sheet number 1, sheet number 2 and sheet number 4, right? So this is my sheet number 1, this is my sheet number 2 and this is my sheet number 4. So if I have to protect my sheets in this way, what I'm supposed to do? Now guys, you see, first of all, you have to go to all the sheets because you want to protect the sheets other than sheet number 1 and sheet number 2 and sheet number 4, right? We don't want to protect. I think I said it to protect. So one thing is very much sure that we have to go and loop through all the sheets. And while looping through all the sheets, we will also keep a check that on which sheet we are, the index wise, But how will you do that? So first of all, we created a for each worksheet and this loop for each worksheet in worksheets and next worksheet. This we have written, and to protect the sheet you have to go also, you have to select the sheet. So we have written the ws.select also. Now here comes the important part. Before you go and unprotect the sheet, would you not like to check whether we are on sheet number 1 or sheet number 2 or sheet number 4? Of course we want to, because if we are on either of these indexes, we would like to skip that. We would not like to protect it. So how will you do that? What we did is, we said that there is a variable which we have named as check, and this will start with the 1 value, right? So we are putting here a condition that if the check is not equals to 1 and the check is not 2 and the check is not 4, so other than 1, 2 and 4, if anything value the check will get, let us protect the sheet, because this is what we need. We want to exclude sheet 1, sheet 2 and sheet 4. Indexes. When I say sheet 4, I do not mean sheet 4 by the name. I mean the index, means this one, right? So that's why I have put the AND condition. Now what happens when you run this code? In this particular example, there is no need of using this total count. What would I get by knowing the total number of sheets? This was actually used in the previous code where you wanted to protect the last sheet, but this time it is not required. So you can just simply go and remove this. Okay, we don't require this. This is how we will start our code. Let us go and start the code now. So first we start. For each my worksheet in worksheets, time to select the first sheet. I selected that. I'm already on the sheet number 1. Now before I protect it, let me check what is the index of it. How will you check? You already said that before you run the loop, your check will be 1, right? Obviously, because when the first time the loop runs, it will select some sheet. So that point in time you want to check what is the value in the check variable, and that's why you have written here, you have written there 1. Now you know that the value of the check is 1. So what is your condition now? 1 is not equals to 1. Is it true? Is it true? It is actually not true. It is false, because 1 and 1 both are equal. So what happens? This condition fails. What about this condition, guys? 1 not equals to 2. Is this true? Yes, it is true, because they are not equal. Is this true? Yes, this is also true. So what do you get? You get all the conditions true. Actually these conditions are true, but this is not true, because they are equal, and you are saying not equal, right? So what happens, you know, when we write AND, all the criteria are supposed to be met. All the criteria you mentioned, they should be true. In this case, this is going to fail. So if one criteria fails, you know, your then will not be executed. Your if will go in the else. And so if it is going to go in the else, your sheet will not be protected. As simple as that, guys. Now before we go for the next worksheet, you definitely want to increment the check, because this is how you keeping the, you know, you are verifying whether the index of the sheet is equals to 1, 2 and 4 or not. So definitely we would like to increment this. Next worksheet, let us select that worksheet now. Now what is your value in the check? You see now it is 2, right? So 2 is not equals to 1. Yes, true. 2 is not equals to 2. This is false. If this is false, then what will happen? You don't have to go here to check, because if this gets false, your code will be in the else mode, right? Because this is AND. Increment the check again. What is the new value in the check now? It is 3. If this 3 is not equals to 1, yes, it is not equal. So answer is true. Is this 3 not equals to 2? Yes, not equals to 2. Is this 3 not equals to 4? Yes, not equals to 4. So you have all the check conditions are coming here as false. True. This is also true. This is also true. And this is also true. So finally what will happen? You will go in the then mode. And then you will protect the WS sheet, which refers to the sheet which you have selected. So go and protect the sheet, and then now you have a new check. The new check is now 4. You know this 4 and 4 are equal, but you have written not equal. So this will fail. If this will fail, you will have the else and if. And finally you are on the last sheet. You know, now my check is 5. 5 is not equals to 1. 5 is not equals to 2. 5 is neither equals to 4. All the conditions are true now. Let us go and protect the sheet. This is how you can build this code. We created this project before also. So let's say every sheet has some data like this. Okay, let me just put this somewhere else. Now you want to copy this data and you want to paste this data in a new file, right? So I go and write some data here, copy this, paste this, and same way paste this, paste this, paste this, and paste this here also. You want to go to every sheet and you want to paste this all the data in a file called dummy. Same project, but this time let's improvise. So I go and save this file on my desktop with the name of dummy. Now you see that with the help of the loop, because last time when we did it, we specifically went to these all sheets one by one, if you remember, in the introduction session. But today we will not do that. So what is the first thing we will do? First of all, we will quickly go and we will go here in the module 2 and I write it a name called compile data. So we have to go to every sheet one by one, irrespective of their name. So let's go and declare this WS as worksheet. For each my worksheet, in worksheets, this is how we write next worksheet, right? Now you have to copy the data, so obviously you have to select the sheet. You select the sheet here. Afterwards, what you do? You go in the A1 cell. You remember these commands? In the A1 I go, and then what I do? Selection, comma, selection, dot end, Excel, down, dot select, right? Control Shift down arrow, and then Control Shift right arrow. So you're going to write here Excel to right. This will select the data. After you select the data, you know what you need to do. You need to copy the data. Selection dot copy. You can record the macro as well, but by now you should be familiar with all these commands. Once you copy the data, what do you want to do, guys? Here comes the new command for you. If you remember this command, when we recorded the macro also, we want to open the file. So we write workbooks dot open. We will be talking about all these workbook commands very soon after this loop. Workbook.open, where is your file? My file is in my C drive, users, and then write Acer and then desktop. In my desktop, I have that file with the name of dummy. Make sure you write the extension as well. That's it, guys. Now this will open the dummy file. Now once this opens the dummy file, I have to paste the data there in the A1 cell. So I go and say that active sheet dot paste. Once you have pasted the data, you want to come back to your this workbook collection loop. So how we write? We write workbooks and then name of the workbook. What is your name of the workbook? It is collection. You can record the macro as well. Loops.xlsm. This is how we will do it. Dot activate, right? Because we have to go to the new worksheet. By the way, let me save this file also. We haven't saved this file. Let me quickly give this a macro enabled range. There we go. Okay. Now once you are back on your file, guys, what you want to do? Your code will take you to the next worksheet. Simple, right? Next worksheet is already written. So this is how the entire code should work. Now, so let us go ahead and run this code and let's see that if we can compile the data using this technique. So I go and so I select the data, I run this command, copy the data, open the dummy file. So you can see that the dummy file is open, and in the range A1 we paste the data. Now before we come back to the collection loop, let us go to the last row also, if you remember. So from the A10,000 cell, using the control up arrow, if you don't remember these commands, you have to really practice. I can't say. Select the cell and then active cell dot offset it by 1 row and 0 column. So what will happen? You will be on the correct cell the next time when the data comes. This is what you'll get. Now let's go back to the collection loop. I'm back there, guys. What is the next worksheet? I don't know. Let's run this. You see that it is selected. Again A1, copy the data, again open the file. Now interestingly, your file is already open. So this is not how it should work, isn't it? So what we will do, because this keeps on opening, then this is not the correct way, because file needs to be opened once. So don't put that in the loop. Let us first open the file on the top, right? let us open it only for once, because afterwards we don't need it, isn't it? So we just go and close the dummy file again. Now you also need to understand, once the dummy file gets opened, you have to run this loop. Where you have to run this loop? You have to run this loop on your existing file, not on the dummy file. You know what? I'll show you something very interesting. See this. You open the file. Okay, great. Now you know what will happen when you run this line. Look at this. Do you see that? Basically, this loop will work on this window, dummy file. This is a big time problem, because you want to run the loop in your existing file, collection loop, not here. But then because the dummy file window is activated, the loop starts working there. So that's why when you get your file opened, please make sure you come back to your original workbook. This is the one. So after we got it open, let's make sure we should be back on our collection loop, so that for each worksheet can run on my collection loop file. So now when I run this, the file gets open, but I'm back on my workbook. Now here the loop will run. So the first sheet is selected automatically. You see that? It doesn't matter which sheet you are on. This will take you to the first sheet. I copy the data, and now where you gonna paste it? Again problem. So here what we will do, since we have already opened the dummy file, so here what I will write, workbooks dummy dot xlsx dot activate, isn't it? So that we can after we copy the data, we can go to that dummy file. Now here the data will be pasted, and this will take you to the last blank cell. And now we are coming back on our collection loop. And now once we are on the right window, next worksheet will take us to the next worksheet, ws.select. Don't forget to write this ws.select, because next worksheet will not select the sheet. You have to write there ws.select. Now A1, copy the data, go to the dummy file. This is like alt tab, you use. Now you can see that I'm going on the A1. On the A1 I'm pasting the data. This is wrong, isn't it? Because again the new data will be pasted. You see, we are getting a lot of problems here. Ideally this should have been pasted in the blank row. So how to sort out this problem? Because every time when you select the dummy file, you will be on the A1 and the data will be pasted. For the first time it is okay, but the next time, the next sheet when you copy, you don't want to go on the A1, isn't it? So here let us do one thing. Let me remove this and let me simply say that from A10000, use the control up arrow and go to the one cell down and then paste it. I think then the problem will be sorted out. Let us go and check that, what I'm saying. So there we go. So start the code. Let's open the file, collection loop. First sheet selected, A1, copy the data. Once I have data copied, I go to the dummy file. From the dummy file now, I use the control up arrow, guys. That is going to take me to the first blank cell, which is A1. So I'm already on the A1, but this will take me to the next row. So you are on the next row, and now the data will be pasted. Let's go back to the collection loop. Turn for the next worksheet. Select that. Go in the A1, copy the data. Once you copy the data, what is the next thing you will do? Come back to your dummy file. Again now use the control up arrow from the A10000. And using the offset, go one cell down and then paste the data. So this is why we have actually did these all alterations, so that we can put our new data in the new row, blank row. So this is also copied, data copied, go to the dummy file and then control up arrow, offset, paste the data. Finally you are done. Well, we still have, I think, one more sheet. Again, data copied, pasted, and we are done. Tomorrow, guys, you change the name of the sheet, you add one more sheet. There is no problem, you know that, because all the sheets will be looped through. Even if I go and change this name to something, this will not create any problem for me if I go and do that, right? Workbook is protected right now. Well, that might be because of the protection we were doing, but anyways, let me just unprotect it. So you got the point. This is how we can run this loop. So this program, very small program, can you see the power of this program? If you have even 50 sheets, this is what you need to write. That's it. In the 50 sheets, this will run. So this is the end of this the first collection loop.